In the name of God, who is most merciful and gracious, I am Zubair Khan and you are watching my vlog. A different leadership is the topic for today's program. After having visited Ukraine and Russia, PM of Hungary, Mr. Viktor Orban, spoke to the correspondent of Bild TV of Germany. How openly he talked regarding the current situation of Europe is worth listening and pondering. Just listen to him and enjoy.
My point is that now we are speaking a lot about strategic autonomy in Europe, and we do very few things in favor of that. Because what a whole strategic autonomy means, if not to have our own interest-based sovereign foreign policy. And what we are doing is not discussing directly, publicly, in an understandable way, what is the interest of Europe under these circumstances, but we just simply copying the American position. I think we should start to discuss a little bit more and deeper way what is the strategic interest of Europe under this circumstance, and especially after the American election. Don't forget about that. So what I'm arguing in favor is deeper understanding, discussions to raise more alternatives to the policy line in European context than we have done up to now. So therefore, discussion which was generated by my trips and my future trips will also generate is not a bad thing, is a good thing. This is a starting point to argue not only in favor of the war, but now there are more and more persons who would like to argue in favor of peace, which was not the case even 1 week ago. So it's a fermentation, may I say, what we need, and I think it's already started to happen.
Did you tell the Ukrainian president, when you met him in Kiev, that you would meet Putin, and was he in favor?
I haven't informed anybody prior to my meetings. So, sovereignty is important. If you are doing that very dedicated, sophisticated job of the peace mission, what I'm doing now, you have to maintain your sovereignty to 100%. So therefore, I do not inform anybody about what I'm doing prior to the event. After that, of course, but never prior to that.
Did you talk with Zelensky or the Ukrainian government again after you met Putin?
Not yet.
What would you tell him?
I know exactly.
So what would be the next step from your perspective?
No. The next step is going on to happen just soon, beginning of next week.
Have you talked to Donald Trump lately? Because Trump is
That's
talking.
a very important step. His son was here just 2 weeks ago.
So you think Trump's going to be the next president?
Election is election, which is the greatest puzzle of the earth. How an outcome of the election is finally coming out from the individual intention of millions or hundreds of millions of people. So nobody can say what will be the outcome of an election. It's a mystery. Even in the Bible, you can find Barabbas and Jesus. So it's very complicated. But at the same time, politics is a field of rationality as well. What I can say that there is a very, very high chance that the next American president will be not the same president who is today.
Do you think Joe Biden is mentally and physically fit to be president?
I'm not a voter of the United States of America, so it's not my job to say anything on that. But what I can say, Europeans should run autonomous, sovereign foreign policy under this present leadership of the United States, I'm sure.
Donald Trump talked a lot about a possible peace plan. He wants to, sit down with both sides. And he said at the end he would threaten not to deliver any more weapons to Ukraine. What do you think of his plan?
I think new leadership will provide new chances.
So do you see things in the same way Donald Trump does?
No, he's a different kind of person, and he trusts and believes more on direct communication and negotiation than the regular type of European, more intellectually oriented and intellectual background policymakers. So he is from businessman. He's a self-made man. He has a different approach to everything, and I believe that will be good for the world politics. Don't forget that he is the man of the peace. I'm not saying he will be the man. He is the man of peace. Under his 4 years term, he did not initiate a single war, and he did a lot in order to create peace in a very complicated, old, conflicting areas of the world. So that's the reason I have a big trust.
I know many Ukrainians who are very afraid that Trump becomes president and just gives Putin what he wants.
He is not that kind of man. Be sure. To give somebody what he would like to get. That's for a self-made man does not sound very logical.
So do you support everything what Trump is saying regarding his plan to end the war?
I try to be very cautious because I am not just, an intellectual who is writing something on politics, but I'm a prime minister and I have the limit of my authority. The United States is another country. I would not like to involve into too deeply to this whole thing. I'm speaking only what Donald Trump or the continuation of the present presidency would mean for the world. And I'm sure that a change would be good for the world. But that's all. I can't say more on that.
Have you talked to the German Chancellor, Olaf Scholz, lately? And have you discussed with him your view on the war?
Prior to go to Kiev and Moscow and some other capitals soon, first I visited the German Chancellor first, then the Italian Prime Minister.
But you didn't tell him as well?
And then the French President, to discuss the situation, including the war, of course.
So what was the outcome of that talk?
I became more informed than I was earlier.
In which way?
Getting more their position. It's not my job to reveal any points made by the German Chancellor, but he explained his position in a very rational way. And I explained mine also. There was no coincidence between the two things.
Do you miss Angela Merkel?
Always. Always. It's a very funny thing in politics that because of migration, I'm a strong anti-migration guy. And she was rather...
I heard about that.
No, she was more in favor of to find a technical solution for that. I had a more historical, civilizational horizon to approach this issue. So therefore, we were not able to agree on migration issue, and the confrontations sometimes were rather harsh. So I tried to be always polite, but that was very difficult anyway. So that was not easy. But regardless of the migration, Angela Merkel has a clear understanding of this region, not just Germany, but Central Europe. She has a clear understanding what is Russia about. Liberal democracy in Russia and that kind of stupid approaches from many Westerners totally untouched her. So she did not understand what does it mean East and Russia and history and so on. So she was a good partner to understand together and to find common points, how to understand the Eastern politics, Central Europe, how it is related to Western Europe and European Union. So her perspective was very wide and very high to discuss historical issues. The problem in the European politics is that there's a failed, misleading understanding of political leadership. Because in Brussels and in Europe, they think that political leadership means to manage the institutions. Wow. Because institutions are the key of our political system, and institutions are able to manage well the life of the people, which is partly true anyway, especially when things are going well. But when things are getting worse and unprecedented developments are happening, surprises coming in politics, institutions does not help. Institutions just paralyze you. You need political leaders, personalities who can react, understand, and make decisions. And Angela Merkel was that kind of leader, so that's the reason of my appreciation to her.
If Angela Merkel was still Chancellor of Germany, do you think the war would have, or this full-scale invasion would have happened?
Would have never happened. Would have never happened.
Why?
because she has a capacity and understanding and skills to isolate the conflicts which are bad for Europe. What the mistake we have done, that there is a conflict, there's a war, and instead of isolating it, we escalated it and made it more and more international.
Well, we tried. Everybody tried with Minsk, and Minsk was a failure because
No, that's your understanding of Minsk. I don't think so. I don't think so. If you think that a political action like Minsk can solve all the problems, of course, Minsk is a failure. But if you think that there is a situation which is bad and must be managed somehow, the only relevant reference point is not how could it be good, but how cannot it be worse. And don't underestimate the situation. Now, the situation is far worse than it was after Minsk. So therefore, the Minsk situation, we would appreciate today a Minsk situation, but now we are that level to the war.
Volodymyr Zelensky said, and it's even in the law, Ukrainian law, he would never sit down with Vladimir Putin to discuss and to have peace talks. What's your understanding? Will this ever happen, that Zelensky and Putin will sit on one table?
If the three major actors of world politics, China, United States, and European Union, would like to have negotiations and peace, there will be negotiations and peace.
And will that happen?
We have to work on that. Peace is not coming just by itself. Peace is something which must be created by somebody. Decisions on war was decision of certain persons. If we would like to have peace, we need persons who would like to have peace and make decisions in favor of peace. And we have a lack of that kind of world leaders at this moment, unfortunately.
How does it make you feel that now so many European politicians are criticizing you, that commentaries saying you're Putin's puppet, propagandist? I even read an Applebaum saying, the wife of the Polish foreign minister, that the NATO countries should take care what they discussed on the next summit because you would tell it to Putin directly.
They are very young ladies and guys, you know, not that old folks as I am in the job, you know. I do remember in 88, 89, when I raised the point that Russians should leave Central Europe and Hungary, and we should be as tough as we can. The Berlin Wall should come down, and we have to do it now, not 40 years later. I was heavily criticized by the leftist politicians from Germany. Later on, when I said, guys, migration will change your society, by which probably you will be not happy. So think twice. I was heavily criticized. So to be criticized, I used to it. If you are a Hungarian prime minister living in a place where we live, that's part of the job.
So the criticism right now and people telling you're helping Putin?
I'm helping Europe. So my approach to this whole situation is how we can create a better policy for Europe.